You're listening to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast with Mike Chappell and Dave Griffiths.
Inside the Fox 59 CBS 4 podcast studio, welcome to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. Alongside Mike Chappell and Matt Adams, I'm Dave Griffiths. Glad to have you along as we transverse into Week 6 of this NFL season. Your Indianapolis Colts are number 1 in the AFC South, at least tied there with their opponent this weekend on Sunday. The Jacksonville Jaguars, a 1 o'clock kickoff from Jacksonville. I believe that's on CBS 4 here in central Indiana. Yes, it is. Matt giving me the big thumbs up. So be sure to tune in there and join us for the Blue Zone pregame show, 11:30 Sunday morning there as well. But we'll give you quite a big preview of that game right now, which is what you tune in for. And when it comes to the Colts in Jacksonville, well, we've been discussing for the last 2 or 3 minutes before we turn the mics on, so to speak. All the many topics we will dive into in this podcast, but the recent struggles, Mike, in Jacksonville. When you say Colts on the road in Jacksonville, there's only one thing that comes to Colts fans' mind, and that's loss after loss after loss. 8 in a row is the road team.
Which means it's not recent.
Exactly. Well, it's more than recent. Yeah,
I mean, we're
it's almost a decade now.
We're approaching a decade. We get assistant coaches occasionally. We talked to a lot today. I talked to Reggie. It's funny. He contacted me during, I think it was Monday or Tuesday. He said, "How long has it been since we've won in Jacksonville?" I said, "You were playing." 2014 was Reggie's last year, and you just, as we talked before we went on the air, it's just a thing. I don't know. It's not like, Reggie said, "I never lost to Tennessee when I was playing." But the Colts were pretty good. And sometimes Tennessee wasn't. The Colts have lost to Jacksonville when Jacksonville's pretty good. And when they're awful. 1-15, the one win was beating the Colts in Jacksonville. So I don't know. I've spent way too much time just looking at the numbers. And we were talking, and the Jacksonville quarterback, their rating is like 113. The Colts is 54. Jacksonville's QBs are 17 touchdowns and 1 interception. The Colts are like 5 and 10. So, and Gardner Minshew, if you can't, beat him, find a guy who's been down there and maybe you can beat him. He was 19 of 20 one game against him.
That was the 1-15 year.
Yeah, so I don't know. Generally, it's been that they've dominated the lines rushing. And as Reggie said, that one game down there, this is pre-streak. They ran for 375 against the Colts. It was a Super Bowl year.
Yeah.
So he said it's a tough place to play. He has no clue for what's gone on recently, and neither do I. They even tried to go to London.
Say they took it overseas as well,
and that didn't work.
Right.
So I don't know, Dave. You've been there, so I think it's you.
It could be.
I blame you.
It is unaffectionately known in the office as the curse of Dave because I moved here in November 2014, and their 2014 game against the Jaguars was September that year, so 2 months before I got here.
That was a Hasselbeck game, right?
Yeah, was their win down. Well, this was their win, the 2014 win.
Okay.
So that was probably luck. But then 2015 was my first year there, and they had the lead at halftime. It was
that was a Hasselbeck game.
Yes, that was the Hasselbeck game, and he gets strip sacked, and just all breaks loose, and it was just a disastrous third and fourth quarter. And they won 50-something to like 17.
51 to 17.
It was awful.
Yeah, 51
absolutely
to 16.
awful. And Blake Bortles threw for like, I don't know what it was at the end of the day, but it's 300 plus and a couple of touchdowns. Allen Hurns or Allen Robinson or both of them.
I bet his career best games have been against Colts.
Like there's been so many weird things about this rivalry and this streak. Like it's been unique, wins or losses, depending on which side you're looking at. It has transversed the barriers of quarterbacks and coaching staffs and general managers and team makeups. Like it doesn't matter what team that the Colts have brought here. It doesn't matter what quarterback or coach or GM. Like they just can't get over the hump in this weird string of games for them.
And I asked Reggie too. I said, do the players talk about it? And the thing is, keep in mind that most of these players haven't been through this much. Ryan Kelly, yes, he came here in 16.
Right. Ryan Kelly, Mo Alley Cox have been here for a while.
Luke Rhodes, but Josh Downs, he says, "Not me. Don't blame it on me." So I don't know. It's just one of those things, and it's a thing until you make it not a thing.
Yeah.
And we'll see if that can change this week.
But let's get into Anthony Richardson, since it's certainly not his fault either. Another one of those rookies. And he is not going to get his chance to end that streak. This week, the Colts placed Richardson on injured reserve after he hurt his throwing shoulder against the Titans, being slammed down there into the turf. Being on injured reserve in the NFL nowadays means you miss 4 weeks minimum. So those 4 games are Jacksonville, Cleveland, New Orleans, and Carolina. So we unfortunately will not get Bryce Young against Anthony Richardson in that game. So right now, Chap, you have those 4 games. You have the game in Berlin against the Patriots, and then the bye week. So a lot of us, our wheels start churning, the gears start churning. We have machinations that probably, if you bring him back for what's it called, for that trip to Germany. First of all, I say bring him back as soon as he's ready. Like he needs reps. If he's ready after 4 weeks,
correct,
fine. But if he's not ready, and if that shoulder needs that time, then you get basically 2 extra weeks because you have that bye week the following. So you think maybe after the bye week would be the most obvious time for him to return, if indeed this shoulder heals by then. But Shane Steichen did not encourage the process of us believing that he would be back sooner rather than later when we spoke with Shane earlier this week.
He had 3 or 4 chances. Do you expect him to play again this year? Well, we'll see. We'll talk to the doctors. And then is there a scenario that he won't play? Well, we'll see with the doctors. We were talking, it just would have been better to say, hey, we have every hope that he's back this year. But he didn't, and I think that may be more of how Shane Steichen's wired than anything. But just to address any fans out there, I think Richardson's return has very little to do with Gardner Minshew. Whether he gets on a run and these guys are all of a sudden going full guns, I just think when Richardson's ready, he's back. He's got to be back and ready. Which, I would think in a couple of weeks, maybe if we're really on best case scenario at practice, maybe we see him without a sling and maybe just leisurely lobbing a ball. I don't know. But I just think that we went into this year, everybody did, with this kid needs reps. Well, when he comes back, he still needs reps.
Right.
Now, maybe I can be swayed if they're on this 5-game winning streak and all of a sudden Richardson's back, and then you say, well, we're going pretty good right now. But he needs to play.
I think, Matt, you are more online than the two of us, being a digital producer. But I think there's a very loud contingent of Gardner Minshew fans that would be very much in his corner, and I don't even think that the Colts are going to win 4 in a row or whatever, 3 out of 4. But that would certainly ignite their passion to having Gardner in charge of this offense. And I'm on the same side of the fence as Chap here, that even if the Colts have this streak under Minshew, you're not viewing him right now as the future of your franchise. You're viewing Anthony Richardson still. Like, he's done enough when he's been healthy in these first couple weeks of the season to merit consideration, like to continue consideration. It's not like he's done something to make you think that, well, maybe this wasn't the right choice. I mean, people in Carolina, there's already rumblings with Bryce Young has not looked the part right over there.
And they'll be in position to move on if they're dumb enough to do that.
Very much so. Like there, I can understand rumblings. Here, I can't understand rumblings. So if he's still the guy in the future, and that's what the Colts still view him as, when he's back, he needs to play, no matter what Gardner Minshew does in the meantime.
I say this by thinking that Gardner Minshew may have been their biggest offseason acquisition because he's really come in and played well for them in a tight spot.
Hard to argue against that now.
But, when you think about some of the things Anthony Richardson has done, especially in that LA Rams game where the couple of throws he made, that one that he made, this is in the game against the Titans to Josh Downs, an absolute dime on that one. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic. He brings things to the offense that Gardner Minshew simply cannot do. And I understand people have, they love the underdog story and all that. And I love Minshew, but if Richardson weren't just making us salivate with what we've seen from him on the field, then maybe I'd feel a little bit differently. But it is clear that Anthony Richardson can handle this NFL offense, which I think was the big question mark going into the season.
Yeah, I think what people have to try to keep perspective on is when we talk like this, we're not bashing Gardner Minshew.
No,
that's not the case at all.
No, not at all.
He's accepted his role. I think he still sees himself as a starter. He told us that when they named Richardson number 1 in camp. Well, I was disappointed, and and that's what you want. You don't want a guy who accepts being a backup. But the options are so much more vast with Richardson. They just are. Mm-hmm. Would Minshew have brought him back from 23 down? Probably not. But the way this team is structured right now, this is almost ideal for Minshew. If the offensive line keeps playing the way it is, if the running game is there and they can run the ball 35 times, I don't know, with these two guys, and you watch Minshew play, and I'm telling you, he makes those 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7 throws. They are right in stride where they've got to be, and maybe Richardson doesn't make those throws yet.
Right. But
as we've said in the past, Minshew's ceiling is just lower than Richardson, certainly. But the floor, you know what you're getting. Again, I go back to Rick Venturi calling him a singles hitter. Well, he is, and I suppose that's maybe a slap at him. But with Minshew, in my mind, the margin of error for the team is less. You have a sack and it's going to be hard to convert. You get behind, it's going to be hard to convert. But again, people point to the 2 games he played so well off the bench with Houston and Tennessee, because that's what he is.
Right.
And then Baltimore had a chance to prepare for him.
Yes, and in that game, he was not all that impressive. They won the game.
He was like 4th or 5th while they won.
Right.
So, and again, if that hurts people's feelings, I'm sorry, but still, I agree. He was one of their best offseason acquisitions for a lot of reasons. It made we talked in the offseason. It made so much sense. Mm-hmm. He was with Steichen for 2 years. He played some, not a lot, played some, and he was. I know he was a good source for Richardson. So all that can be true without the fact that they're still better off with Richardson, and when he's ready to play, he plays.
So now just the question becomes when is he going to play?
And maybe he doesn't play this year.
Right, and that's possible. That seems like it is actually a possibility that we will know more of in the coming weeks.
And the perfect storm that Jim Irsay talked about with drafting the quarterback and having with Taylor, they've played one play. Pitch to the left for 3 yards.
Yep.
So, but it's still there, and we can talk a little bit. We don't want to make this all about Richardson, but there's talk, well, when he comes back, they need to really change the offense. They can't put him at risk. Well, that's who he is. Running is what he does. Mm-hmm. Could he? I think he could have avoided the concussion. I just do in Houston. I'm not sure what he could have done against Tennessee. He just got to the outside, and I guess you can anticipate with your spidey senses that Harold Landry's right on top of you, but they just fell, and it fell on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Can you slide?
I don't think so. And
not
we
in
talked
that
about
case,
that.
I don't think.
In that play, it's a designed quarterback sweep to the side. You're going around to the side, and Harold Landry hits you from your side.
Right.
And kind of just takes you to the ground. It's not like you're going straight on and you see
and you lower your shoulder and you take him on or whatever.
Yeah, that's not what happened. No. So I find that hard to believe that you would coach a quarterback to slide in that scenario. So I have no problem with what he did on that play. It was a hard luck play that he got thrown into the turf, which set off Indy Star sports columnist Greg Doyle this week about the grass versus turf debate. And you could certainly I think Greg made a lot of great arguments, and I'll say this about Greg: what makes him a great sports writer is when he's like a dog that gets a taste of a bone, and once he does, there's nothing stopping him from getting the rest of it. Absolutely not. He's full bore into a topic. And holds absolutely nothing back. And in this grass versus turf debate, I think that's what the article that he put out was like, that Like if there's a better chance to be healthier on grass, if you're the Colts, you want to do everything you can to have grass, and especially
what's the expense like? Twice as much a year?
What's that?
Was it like the expense of grass over turf?
Right.
Is it like $3 million for grass?
Something
and
like that.
$1.5 million for turf?
Something like that. Yes, like it's more expensive. But and his argument is how do you want to pay the price of losing another franchise quarterback,
right.
which makes sense.
Yeah, Molly Cox.
Yeah,
I mean, he smacks his head on the ground, and he's got a concussion. Probably won't play this week.
Right. So, and our another friend, Stephen Holder here, worked with a couple other people on ESPN and put something together that was a bigger deep dive.
Really good in-depth story, which showed you that there is a debate.
Right, about turf and grass and just how much of a change is there. And it's just, is it negligible? Is it minuscule? Is it significant? Like, I thought that was a very, very well done article too. So, like that continues to go, because it's not like Richardson is lowering his shoulder and trying to hit a 350-pound defensive tackle and injuring himself that way. It's been, hey, game 1 he gets driven into the turf and hits his knee. Game 2 or game 3, whatever it was against Houston, he gets he gets shoved to the back and hits the back of his head against the turf there. And then back here, he gets driven into the turf and hits his shoulder. So it's hitting the turf each time that has caused this injury. So you understand why here people are sensitive about injuries to quarterbacks and repeated injuries to quarterbacks because of what has happened here with franchise quarterbacks past. So that will continue to be an issue, I think, as long as Richardson, as long as he only finishes 1 out of every 4 games he starts, for crying out loud. It's been a rough ratio for him early on in his NFL career.
But then again, that this is who he is. This is who you drafted. This is what you knew. This is why Josh Allen is who he is. It's in part why Jalen Hurts is who he is. Mahomes isn't the same. They don't do as many design runs with him. But when you've got Lamar Jackson, when you've got that guy, you've just got to let him do what he does.
All 4 of those quarterbacks play on grass home fields.
Oh, there you go.
I'm going to point that out right there and say, like, maybe that's, like, if that's something that if you're going to devote your franchise to this quarterback who's going to take more hits, you need to do everything you can to try to figure out how to get grass in that stadium, even if it's a municipally owned stadium, even if there's even if the Colts have 10 events there every year and there are hundreds more literally that are so much easier to do over a turf field. Like, what can be done? What would it cost? What are your options to make it as beneficial or as least damaging as you possibly can with this specific quarterback?
And you should have that approach whether you're talking about Grant Stewart or Luke Rhodes or Mo Ali Cox.
Right.
But when it is your quarterback and when this is who he is and these happen, they need to have, and I'm sure they have, but they need to really think hard about the added investment, because teams make money. Teams make zillions of dollars. But again, like you say, this is CIB involved in this as well. But I can't imagine a CIB saying no if the team can show how they can make it work.
Right.
But it is complicated.
Yeah. But it's like, it's a complicated discussion you need to have. You need to get smart people to think about this. Like that's why you make millions of dollars, because it's complicated and you figure out solutions.
That's why you don't ask us. You don't pay attention to us, because we're not as smart as you're supposed to be.
No, exactly. Yeah, we're just 3 yip yaps with microphones in a wonderful studio here inside Fox 59 CBS4.
This is not a wonderful studio. Don't go that far.
And I believe that the Colts they're not changing to grass next year, but there are a couple different types of field turf.
Correct.
And so they're changing to what some people consider to be the better version. Monofilament, I believe, or something along those lines. It's supposed to be a little bit better on the players' bodies. And we've heard these rumblings over the past couple of years really kind of echo a little bit more, I think. And I really noticed some of the Colts players really talking about the effect of the turf that I don't think I've necessarily heard the players be as outspoken about that in the past.
So now, as Gardner Minshew takes over as your starter, Sam Ehlinger is your backup quarterback, and the Colts did sign Kellen Mond to the practice squad, former Texas A&M quarterback. No real run at the NFL level in his career.
Three passes.
Yes, exactly. So he's thrown thrown fewer passes than Derrick Henry.
He's thrown 3 more than me.
Exactly, that's true. He's thrown 3 more than me too.
And me as well.
Yeah, we'll give him that. Somehow something managed to outstage Jonathan Taylor's return to the field this past week. The Colts' All-Pro running back is back after signing a 3-year deal.
Dinner's on him.
What's that?
Dinner's on him.
Darn right it is. A 3-year extension that ties him to the team through 2026, worth $42 million-ish. That is a $14 million a year average, third most in the NFL, only behind Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara. $26.5 million of that is guaranteed. And the stupid thing about this stupid contract,
we talked about this.
These are the same stupid numbers that we proposed back in stupid June.
We sat there and talked about it.
Yep, that's it. Like that, all this drama, this craziness.
Don't you think 3 years and $42
million,
and the guaranteed money's like the 2 franchise tags?
And this is right about what that would be. The guaranteed money.
Look at that.
Franchise tag. So those are the numbers that they finally come out with. Jonathan Taylor takes the field, and he was elevated to the active roster immediately. He played 10 plays. He had 7 touches of the ball in those 10 plays.
Nice intro for him, though.
Yeah. Very nice intro. The fans were very happy to have him back, and I think the fact that he signed a new contract would that also would have alleviated any possible boos that would have been there. Like, he's with the team now, he's devoted to the team. Because we had that discussion last week. Are there going to be boos or are there going to be cheers? And I thought there'd be more cheers. But after he signed the contract, I was like, they're all cheers now. And he comes out and he was blowing kisses to the crowd, hamming it up there, coming out of the tunnel. So good for him. He's back, and I'd assume Chap got just a steady increased dose.
20 snaps this week, and
exactly.
I don't know. What did he have? Was it 3 carries?
7 touches last time.
How many? 6 carries?
6 carries for 18.
So he'll
and
have
then a catch for 16. And
10 carries.
10 carries, maybe.
Maybe you tried to throw to him twice.
It's really, we talked to the running backs coach today, and it's not that they have a problem, but they have an issue with 2 starting running backs. They do. Zach Moss, what is he, 3rd in the league in rushing?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's without playing the first game.
Right.
So 5 yards to carry, that magic number as well.
Yes, really. And he had that Jonathan Taylor 56-yard touchdown, which was so reminiscent to me of the third and one against the Patriots.
I thought the same thing.
I mean, holy smokes.
That hole just opened right up. The line mauled the other team.
And the power runner ran away from him.
Yeah.
So, but let's not kid ourselves. It's Jonathan Taylor. But you can't simply move away from Zach Moss. You can't. The whole thing about an offense and a team is you maximize what you've got. And right now their strength is their running backs, and a strength is the offensive line. Mm-hmm. They keep in mind that Blake Freeland had a tough opener against the Rams. You're playing Aaron Donald,
right?
So come on. I thought he played well last week. Tennessee's got a good front 7.
They have a very good front 7.
So and
that's why I thought they would lose last week.
They ran
exactly
193. They ran for.
Yeah, yeah.
And Moss was the first back in 20 games to run for 100 yards against Tennessee. So you just don't get away from him. And I think with Minshew again, I think we're going to see a less dynamic offense. But if they can stay on pace and not get behind the chains, that's the strength of this team now. Mm-hmm. The problem is you're going to have a holding penalty, you're going to have stuff, and then how do you convert first and 20 or whatever? But they are built to be sort of what they wanted to be with Frank.
Yep.
I mean, the old ground and pound, although Taylor wasn't pounding, it was boom. But if they're built that way, they're playing that way. And we'll get into it here briefly, but keep in mind when Jacksonville won here in the opener, it was Deion Jackson.
Right.
Taylor was somewhere.
Who knows?
And Moss was out with still rehabbing the broken forearm. So this is their strength. I'm really curious how Steichen, who's really, really good, can maximize what they've got without probably again, the threat of a deep passing game.
Right. As long as the offensive line plays like it did last week, they're going to have a chance in a lot of games this year. And I'll shout out Ryan Kelly right now because he's the highest graded center in the NFL in Pro Football Focus right now. And I know after last season, there were a lot of questions about Ryan Kelly and several other players on the Colts offensive line. Like there was discussion about trading him, and Chris Ballard admitted as much. And he said at the end of the day, Ryan Kelly's a good player. They're not just going to throw him away for nothing. And right now, they're very glad they didn't because, like I said, highest graded center in the NFL right now, according to Pro Football Focus, has allowed just 1 pressure all season and 0 sacks. Now, I know he was out for that one game, or it was just one game with a concussion. Two games with a concussion. He missed 2 games, so he's played 3 games. Excuse me, but still, those are 3 games that has caused him to be at the top of the league from his performance. So shout out to him.
I was just going to say the touchdown run from Zach Moss. I've watched that replay numerous times, just because.
Yeah.
Just because, but we see Moss, we see the hole and everything, but the way they created that hole and the way that they manhandled those Tennessee players and pushed those. I mean, there were like 3 pancake blocks on that run. Mm-hmm. Incredible. Yeah. Go back and watch that.
Quentin took somebody out, and he pancaked him at the end.
Yep. Really good.
Everybody did their job. You don't get a run like that if everybody doesn't do their job, but that line deserves so much credit because that was the biggest question mark, one of the biggest question marks we had for the team this year.
Yep, run the ball. And right now they're running it very well. Can that streak continue in Jacksonville? The Colts have not won a road game in Jacksonville since 2014. Andrew Luck threw touchdown passes to Ahmad Bradshaw, Dwayne Allen, Kobe Fleener, and Hakeem Nicks. Adam Vinatieri hit 3 field goals in that 44-17 finish back there in 2014. How far have we come, guys? How far have we come since that? But a good point to remember is the Colts did snap 2 streaks last week. They snapped their 5-game losing streak to the Titans, and they snapped their 7-game home losing streak to finally win inside Lucas Oil Stadium. Is this team a streak breaker? Maybe it is. That'd be really nice.
I think it's a better team, and it's a better coach team. God, I don't want to try Schrank. But they found so many ways to lose last year. I mean, goodness gracious, 33-0. Some numbers get seared in your mind, and they found ways to lose. And I think they're just finding ways to win now. I mean, go back to Pittman's fumble recovery at Baltimore. If he doesn't make that fumble recovery on Minshew's sack fumble, who knows? And really good teams sometimes don't need to find those 1 or 2 plays because San Francisco is just good. Mm-hmm. But when you're that team in the middle, when you're one of those zillion 3-2 teams or 2-3 teams, the difference are 5, 6, 7 plays, and if you make them at the right time. Zaire Franklin stuffing Derrick Henry 4th and 1, 4th and 2, whatever.
Yep.
That's a play. I mean, that's where you say, okay, that's us. And because if Derrick Henry converts that, this may be a 2-3 team.
Right.
But those are the plays that matter, and we'll see if this team can continue because it's not been. When I did the game story Sunday, I always meander into stories, but I went back to Chris Ballard when he was introduced here. It's never going to be about one person. He was talking about getting Andrew Luck and all that, and well, I would argue I would rather have that one person.
Right. I'd rather have him than not.
I'd rather have him than not, and then worry about all the other things. But that game against Tennessee, it just bore out that it is more. You could point to 5 or 6 guys doing things at the right time. Matt Gay kicking field goals and Gardner Minshew playing well and Zaire and all this. So it's right now it's everybody. Now, can they continue that? Because again, this team still isn't a top. This is still not a top 10 roster. It's just not. And if people take offense, they're starting 2 rookie corners for crying out loud.
Right. We'll throw in Julian Blackmon making that game-sealing interception too,
See,
like another play.
Again, you can just name so many things, and at some point, talent just overwhelms you. I don't think Jacksonville is necessarily that. I like their passing game and their receivers. I want to see how those receivers do against this secondary.
Yep.
Sam, I'm not sure that I do, but
well, I know.
You don't want to
well, keep in mind in the first game too, one of the corners was Dallas Flowers.
Yep.
Who's no longer with us.
And the other was Darrell Baker Jr.
Yes, and I don't believe that did Jalen Jones? He was probably special teams that day.
He was.
I think so.
I'm not sure he played on defense.
So now it's going to be.
And Juju was inactive.
Sidelined. Yep.
So we got Juju and Jalen right now on the outside.
So normally you can say, well, the first game, these are totally different. This is a totally different Colts roster now in a lot of ways. And again, Richardson started, but I thought they really had the training wheels on him early. Mm-hmm. We didn't see all of this. So it's really cool to see when parts have to work or the whole thing doesn't work. And I want to see how far it takes him.
Right, and that's what's going to have to be with Minshew. There's going to be different parts that have to work. And somebody like we were talking with Zaire Franklin in the locker room. He just said, you figure it's going to be a close game. In the fourth quarter, somebody's going to make a play, and that's going to be the difference in this game. It just depends on who the play falls to, who has the opportunity to do so. And with this Jaguars team, they are, like I said, also 3-2, maybe a little underperforming from what you would have expected in the preseason.
And then they beat Buffalo.
But exactly. But then they go and beat Buffalo.
Two nice wins back to back there.
Really nice wins. So they turned around from those 2 losses in a row, got 2 really good wins, and now they're coming home with a good deal of momentum. Should have all the confidence in the world, having beaten the Colts as the home team 8 times in a row. They're scoring 21 points per game. That's it. And their defense has won a couple games for them by that
21
standard.
points is just
it's nothing. That's bad.
Right.
It's
Yes.
bad. It's not in the top. It's in the bottom third of the NFL. Their passing yards, they're decent. They're in the top third. Rushing yards, they're right in the middle. Although Travis Etienne has done better in recent
Go back
games.
and look. He had like 102, 104 against the Colts. But they kept him really, really bottled up until he had the 26-yard touchdown.
Yeah, I think it was 36. I thought it was a little bit more than that.
Maybe I thought it was 26.
Okay.
Whatever.
Whatever.
But that's what the good backs do to you. You keep them on a short leash, and then all of a sudden they get loose with you. But I think that, again, that's another strength right now is the Colts' run defense is playing really, really well.
Yeah. Let's look at the Jaguars' offense. Trevor Lawrence leads the way. Has 1,258 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on this season.
5 touchdowns.
Only 5 touchdowns. Like their offense, they can get better. They will get better.
Yeah, there's definitely room for
to.
growth from that offense.
Right, because when you have guys like Etienne, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Evan Engram, Zay Jones, like that's a really good unit there. That's a good unit of playmakers, and Calvin Ridley being at the top kind of like cements it. Like when you have a guy who seems to be a legit number 1 guy, he certainly did. He got on him pretty good against the Colts.
He got on him pretty good in the opener.
Yeah, he did. When you have that makes everyone else better around you. And Christian Kirk is leading them in receptions. He has 30 to Calvin Ridley only has 22.
26 yards. Touchdown.
26-yard touchdown. Okay, Chap's right. Chap needed to look it up to make sure.
I knew I had. Occasionally I get things
right.
There
you go. That one you got right, and I was wrong. And Zay Jones only has 8 catches on the year, but 5 of them came against the Colts. 5 for 55 yards and a touchdown here in Indianapolis. And so that's the – well, Christian Kirk kind of goes to the slot. So Zay Jones was probably going up against Darrell Baker in that game because you'd have Calvin Ridley and Dallas on one side. So
Ridley was 8 for 101.
Yeah, he had a good day too.
They've given up 400-yard receiving games in 5 games.
The Colts have.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, that's with the young cornerbacks.
You want to say, yeah, really? I mean, you're surprised.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like if you're gonna give something up, and with this team, like with this front on this team, this defensive front, that's their strength. We knew it going into the season. Especially the center of the defensive line. If you have Buckner healthy and Grover Stewart there.
He was healthy last week, wasn't healthy against the Rams, and the Rams
ran all over
160-some yards.
Yeah, that's what we said last week, that that run defense did not look like what it should be.
They still need that pass rusher.
Yeah, Quiddy didn't. Well, Quiddy was hurt. He had a
concussion.
So he had 3 sacks in the first 3 weeks, and then the 4th week is when he got the concussion.
And now maybe we're seeing Dio really come in to his own.
Yep.
But to me, that's what's missing. The secondary is what it is. You're not going to get all of a sudden better.
No.
But they need Samson, Ibukam, or somebody to come up and just be the guy to where you get a sack a game. You get, whatever.
Juju's been impressive. I've liked watching him play. He's a physical cornerback. Like he's not the most meaty guy. He's a tall, I'd almost say lanky dude, but he's physical. He mixes it up. He'll get there in the running game.
And he'll get some penalties, but that's fine.
Oh, he's got to
be
learn.
aggressive.
Like be aggressive. I'd rather say whoa than giddy up is the phrase, and it's certainly true with him. And I think last week for all the cornerbacks was a learning experience going up against DeAndre Hopkins.
What do you have, like 10 or 11 catches?
Still shows that he's
140 or so.
He can mix it up in this league. Like he might not be the deep threat that he once was, but he's still a very good route runner, and he can surgically knife through you if given the opportunity.
And he doesn't drop them.
No, he does not. Well,
8 for 140.
There you go.
And it seemed like I swear it felt like he had 20 catches in that game.
And some of them, there was good coverage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You know, and sometimes you just say, hey, they beat me there. Yeah. So, but I say the important. We've talked about how the Jags aren't where we thought they would be. It's only 5 weeks, so you'd rather be kind of growing. And that's what this Colt team is. They should get, barring the more big injuries, they're going to get better because what they've done so far is without JT.
Right.
And in the it's Ryman's missed 2 games. Yeah, 2 games at left tackle. Yeah. And as we've said, if you haven't got a left tackle, you can't play. So I'm encouraged. That's why I thought Tennessee was such a significant game to win, because then you're waiting for Jacksonville, which, we'll get in. They don't play well down there. Whatever it is, they get beat, but they don't play well.
Right.
So it does give you a cushion, and you do not want Jacksonville to get separation to where they run away from everybody in the division.
One of the best parts of the Jacksonville's team so far has been their rush defense. They are 5th in the NFL in rush defense. So this is a classic case of strength on strength here. The Colts are going to try to run the ball. The Jaguars have been able to stop it so far this year, but they're not going to stop. It's not going to stop the Colts from trying to run the ball. Like I keep remembering back to a couple of years ago in that Tampa Bay game here in 2021, where the Buccaneers came in with the best rush defense in the league, and Vita Vea is probably the best rush defender in the league, and then they had like 20 something odd passing plays in a row. And Quentin Nelson goes to Frank Reich on what's it called, on HBO Hard Knocks, and it's like, can we just call a run play,
a designed run?
Can we just call a design run, not a RPO? Because apparently some of those plays during that time were RPOs that Wentz would go out and throw it, and probably made, I don't know. I'm not going to guess to right or wrong decisions there, but they were gaining yards even from time to time with throwing the ball. But that wasn't the strength of that team. That team, their strength was a running team to impose their will, right, to grind out another team. And it took Quentin going to Frank, be like, we got to do something different right now. We got to run the ball.
It may have made Frank look bad, maybe, but at times you need to say, hey.
But it was true.
It was
like it needed to happen.
Yes,
because what was happening should not have been happening. And then eventually Shaquille Barrett comes in, gets the strip sack. You give Shaquille Barrett enough times to rush the passer against Eric Fisher that year, who is not a good pass blocker, and that's going to happen. So anyway, that's me going off on a weird random pass rant. But all that to say, you got to stick with who you are. Like, the Jaguars are a good rush defense, but you're a good rush offense. Let's go out and test them. Let's run the ball. Let's see what we can do, and then let the chips fall where they may.
I don't think Steichen's a guy that'll 2 things. He won't run when it's not working just to say, doggone it, we're going to run. But I don't think he's going to get away from it too soon because maybe there's not early success.
Right.
I just. We'll see how the season goes, but I just really think that he's very on point and he's creative. And doggone it, this is how we do it. This is how we're going to do it. But at the same time, at some point, whatever that is, late second quarter, whatever, he won't run just to prove a point.
Right.
But he's not going to get away from it.
On the defensive side of the ball for Jacksonville, Foye Oluokun is their leading tackler with 52 tackles this year, right up there with...
It's about a game for Zaire.
Exactly, yeah, right up there near Zaire, near the top of the league. But it just seems like every play around the line of scrimmage, he's in on the tackle. So look out for him. And then after that, there's a bunch of players in the secondary with their tacklers, tackling leaders. And
I was just struck by the drop off between in numbers on the second tackler.
52 down to 28 is their next leading tackler. Cornerback Tyson Campbell is there. And then Andre Sisco, Syracuse University, with 27, the safety.
Do you just know all these people? How do you keep...
Got to keep track of my boys out there, for sure. Come on now.
I keep track of Ball State because Danny Penner's here.
Yeah, exactly. There's your one. Congratulations. Josh Allen has 6 sacks on the year. I think he got Josh Allen at least once last week.
Yes, he did.
So it was Josh Allen on Josh Allen crime, not to the extent that it was 2 years ago, where it was strip sack after strip sack, and he single-handedly won that game for Jacksonville last year against the Bills. But yeah, it's 2 years ago the Jaguars get the better of the Bills. Some teams you just have their number. It's like it's like the Colts in Jacksonville, and it's like the Colts have been with the Chiefs. They've played the Chiefs really well. They beat the Chiefs last year. They beat the Chiefs like a couple years back before the playoff loss too that year in 2018. So there are some teams you play well against. The Jaguars have something going against the Bills. And yeah, so that's, I don't know, that's just an observation. That's just how it is.
What is Jacksonville? Their run defense is fifth?
Fifth in the NFL right now. They're averaging giving up 81 yards per game, 3.7 yards per carry.
They gave up 29. The Bills were 14 for 29.
14 for 29.
And the Colts were 26 to 65.
26 for 65.
And that's when Deion was.
That's with Deion Jackson.
13 for 14?
Yeah, I think like 40 of those yards were Anthony Richardson or something. It was
he had 10 carries.
It was 10 for 40.
Yeah.
And that was one where, let's not pile on Deion too much, but it was like the second worst rushing game by an individual in years.
And he compounded that with a couple of fumbles too.
Oh, by the way.
Oh yeah, that too, which you can't do.
So you didn't run it effectively, and you didn't hold on to the ball,
and you dropped a pass. So I guess we are piling on.
Yeah, sorry, but yeah, he was a very solid special teams player. He filled in last year and caught like 10 or 11 balls in that Denver game, or maybe it was a different game, but it was one of those games.
I think it was that Denver game.
But it was
because Taylor was out.
Yep.
And then Naheem got the concussion like in first quarter.
Yeah, it was like it was real early in that game.
So anyway, so I'll throw in what he did well there to alleviate the.
But I mentioned the thing about the Colts and Buffalo with the rushing is after 5 games, sometimes stats can be a little skewed on how you're playing, but the Colts need to see how stiff the Jacksonville run defense is. They really do.
Yeah, put it to the test. Injury report for this week for the Colts. Their Wednesday injury report, Braden Smith with a foot and a wrist was not practicing. He was out there, but not practicing. Mo Alley Cox did not practice with a concussion after leaving the Titans game.
Won't play
Sunday. It's been ludicrous this year. Like just the ratio. It's been nearly 100% of players who get a concussion haven't played the next week.
Schefter put out, this was last week, that he didn't use a number, I don't think, but no one who had a concussion on Sunday played the next Sunday.
Right.
And what was crazy is that, remember Jelani Woods? No, Drew
Ogletree
was cleared.
He was cleared.
He could have played, and he was
they
a
kept
healthy
him
scratch.
out.
Right.
So, but it's whether this is a league saying this or this is a team saying, and I think it's a team. People tend to think that teams don't look after their players. They do. How many times I've been in the locker room and some player is ready to play, and I'm going to play. Of course, you can't listen to players. You just can't. but I really do think that teams err on the side of Drew Ogletree, that we're going to keep him out another week. But they've had, gosh, I've got a list. Is this 7 or 8 concussions now for these guys?
It keeps going. I mean, it's been Mo, Quiddy, Ryman, Richardson.
Shaq had one preseason.
Those are the ones that come to my mind.
There's another one, but it's
You guys said Ryan Kelly?
Oh, Ryan Kelly.
Kelly's another one, yep.
So it's I think some of that is that the league has strengthened the in-game protocol with if a spotter sees something. I tell you, I've seen some hits I'm thinking, and they didn't bring that guy out to check on.
Right. Like the spotter, and this is something that came into discussion a couple weeks ago, like the spotter is not looking for big hits. The spotter is looking for what comes after.
Right.
So
like
yeah. But you're right.
Like
you still see the hit, and you're like, wow, that
like Richardson's head snapping on the ground.
Right, exactly.
And he told the team, I got a headache.
Right.
And then they said, well, then we need to take you in. He said, no, that's all right. And he stayed in for 2 more series. And then he said, no, I really got a headache.
Yeah. He's like, okay, this isn't good.
So.
Yeah. Full practice on Wednesday. Shaquille Leonard with a groin injury. Quiddy Pay with a concussion. Bernard Ryman with a concussion. So good sign there from both of those two that they could be working their way through the protocol after missing last week.
I think Braden practiced only Friday last week?
I think you're
with
right.
a hand.
Yeah.
So I think he plays.
Yeah, I think so.
I really do. I don't. Smith. I put 0 importance on the Wednesday practice. Thursday more. Friday's the one that it'll tell us if a guy. We'll know Friday whether or not we should know Friday whether or not that the two guys in concussion, Ryman and Quiddy, are out of protocol. I just the way it's gone, I'm not even expecting to see Mo.
So I kind of feel like with Ryan Kelly, Braden Smith, Quentin Nelson, barring concussion, but like if they don't practice on Wednesday, not a huge deal, because you think by Friday they'll probably have a limited or a full practice and they'll probably play on Sunday.
Yeah. For the Jaguars, no practice for Zay Jones or Walker Little. Zay Jones, the wide receiver, a knee injury. Walker Little, offensive lineman, a knee injury. Limited in practice, Christian Braswell, the corner, with a hamstring. Linebacker Devin Lloyd, a thumb injury. Full practice, their left tackle, Cam Robinson, with an elbow injury, who did not play against the Colts in Week 1. They got a backup left tackle in that game. And also full practice for linebacker Dwayne Smoot, working his way back from an Achilles injury, or working through an Achilles injury, I should say. Last week was Cam Robinson's first game back from a 4-game suspension, as Matt notes here, violating the NFL performance enhancing drug policy. But he left in the second half of that game against the Bills with his elbow injury. So, but being a full participant in practice on Wednesday,
I would assume he'll play.
Jaguars fans can look at that and see that that's probably the most likely scenario from what will come. So be sure to follow us on Twitter at Colts Blue Zone for news and notes throughout the week. That will include injury reports Thursday and Friday. We'll get some more details on that as the game gets closer. Hey, Drew Ogletree is he's getting thrown into a lot for sure. Like, he's taking on Mo Alley Cox's role right now. He has to help out blocking, and especially when you have a rookie tackle right there in Blake Freeland. You're going to figure you're going to keep the tight end in a little bit more. He used to be a wide receiver back in college. Now he's added some bulk. Like, he's a big dude.
Big dude.
He is, but it's not just being a big dude that blocks in the NFL. You need to know everything. You need to know leverage. You need to know scheme. You need to know so much. So I thought he was fine last week. I think he did a pretty good job. And like I said, I thought the reason, as I said on this podcast last week, that I thought that the Colts were going to lose was because the front seven of the Titans, and the Colts front seven Colts front dominated them.
And that includes the tight ends.
Exactly, that includes the tight end. So shout out to Drew and Mo when he was in there too. So, but that's just a heaping helping of more responsibility placed on essentially a rookie's plate, because this is his first year playing in the league.
You walk through the locker room and you're just used to being around big guys. I mean, Quentin is like my front door.
Yeah,
he's just so thick and wide. But you go over the tight end section. Mo's almost one of the smaller I take Cunning Granson out of it, but Mo's one of the smaller tight ends now.
Yeah,
because Jelani Woods and Drew and Will Mallory's a pretty good sized kid too, and he'll probably be out this week, with Mo probably out, being down. But it's in what we've seen from Drew is they get these guys down the field. I thought he got hurt Sunday. He stayed down for a few seconds with it. I thought it was a concussion. I think it was his shoulder.
Yeah.
But he came back, and I tell you, you've seen with Steichen, he loves tight ends.
Yes, he does.
And that should be a quarterback's best friend, whether it's you get him down the seam or he's a dump off. But this is a good group of tight ends, and if somebody can emerge Mo-like as a blocker, it's going to be a really good group. I don't think Will Mallory's ever going to be that. I don't think.
Right.
But I think Woods or Ogletree could be.
And we'll see anything about Jelani Woods. Still out, still on
Only one of our questions Friday for the coach, but
exactly.
I bet he's progressing.
I'm sure he's progressing well, and we'll see what happens next week. So, like I said earlier, 1 o'clock kickoff airs here in Indianapolis on CBS 4. Both teams are 3-2. The winner will have sole possession of first place in the AFC South. Colts trying to snap an 8-game losing streak as the road team in this rivalry. 7 of those games played at whatever it is, Everbank Field, I think
Everbank.
I think I've been there enough times.
Has it been Everbank the entire way?
No, it has not. There was something else. It was before Everbank.
It's kind of like Miami with the Dolphins. It's like 6 different names.
Exactly. They've had different names in the past. So that was the one that popped into my head immediately. So I was hoping that was the right one. Hang on. I'm looking up the line for this week's game.
Like 4?
I don't know what it is. Let's see. Over under is 45.5. And 4-point favorites, the Jaguars. So the Jaguars favored by 4, so they're anticipating something along the lines of a 24-20 or 25-21 ball game. That's what Vegas says, and we know
Vegas knows.
Yeah, the ceilings in Vegas are paved with gold for a reason. So whatever you think is going to happen is not what's going to happen. Nevertheless. Chap, how about you go first? How about we try to break the streak of me going first all these times for our predictions?
So you can't steal my prediction?
Exactly. I'll steal yours. But just like we're trying to break a streak, the Colts are this weekend down in Jacksonville. So we'll go Mike first, and then Matt, and then me with our predictions for this game as the Colts are in Jacksonville for a Week 6 showdown with first place in the AFC South on the line.
I've got 24-16 Jacksonville. I don't like the small margin of error that the Colts have to play with, and I don't like the matchup of Trevor Lawrence and his throwing toys against these guys. So with the Colts, and I start thinking 16 points. Okay, that's a touchdown and 3 field goals. That feels about right. And one of the issues with as long as AR is out, I believe, is Matt Gay's got to be on point. When he's out there, it's going to matter. And you can't leave points on the field. But I just think to me, it's not so much the streak and all the. It's just going to be that I think Jacksonville's a better team right now, and I don't like the matchups as far as passing and pass defense.
All right, Matt, what you got?
It's always so tough. You take things week to week. I really thought that they would beat the Rams. They didn't. I thought they'd lose to the Titans, and they beat the Titans pretty. They bullied the Titans last week. I didn't know that this team necessarily had that in them. So. They broke a couple of streaks last week. I'm going to go streak busting here, and I'm going to say 23-17 Colts, even though I don't have if I were to put a confidence number on that, it would not be a strong one.
All right. Hey, like I said this last year, that as long as I'm not picking the streak to end. I'm right.
Vegas says you pick streaks to continue.
Exactly. But so I have to stick to that. Those loyal listeners to the Colts Blue Zone podcast would, I'm sure, just get.
I blame you. I blame James Boyd for trashing his team for the last 2 years.
Yep.
And I blame you for Jacksonville.
It's hard to argue anything else other than that, to be perfectly honest. But
I can give you evidence. You want some more evidence? No,
exactly. No, you don't have to. No, I'm going to go with 21-17. I think it's a close ball game, or maybe one that the Colts make close at the end. But I still think that Jacksonville appears to be still fighting themselves on offense. I think that they could grow better later in the year, but I could see this. If I had to play this game, I would play the under, which means they'll be, I don't know, 60 points scored, But
I hope not, because I don't see these guys doing their share of the 60 points.
And with this rivalry and how it's gone, there have been so many weird games, like we already talked about, and weird results, stuff that you would not expect. Even looking back at the end of the season, how on earth did that happen? What on earth is going on?
6-0 with a luck team that averaged 27 points a game.
The team that was on a 9-1 run.
Yeah, they were red hot going.
It was the only game they lost over the last 2.5 months.
Maybe it was 8-1. I forget what it was, but yeah, there's the one game they lost. It was 6-0, and as you said, Frank just went for it on fourth down too much, didn't take any points, and that's why they lost.
Hey, we'll get one later on. No, you didn't.
No, they didn't get. Sometimes it's good to take the points, and now the Colts are taking the points when you have Matt Gay as your kicker and you have a 50-yard field goal.
Except at the end of the first half of the Titans game.
Exactly, not that.
I think I'd have taken the points.
I think I would. I get it. It would have been great if they'd gotten the points there, like the touchdown, because they had a really nice play drawn up. It just got blown up by a defender. Minshew couldn't get enough on it. But especially with 15 seconds left in the half, much of the game.
No timeouts, I don't think, left.
No timeouts. Fourth down, go ahead and take the points, and then you don't have to have that butt clinch moment at the end of the game when Jacksonville gets the ball back.
Can you say it on the air?
I can say anything I want on this podcast.
Yeah, right. Who cares?
But when Tennessee got the ball back at the end of the game, then the Colts have a 10-point lead. You don't have to have the interception. Odds are they're not going to score anyway, even with a 7-point lead. But take the points sometimes when you have them.
Yeah. All right, so we appreciate you listening to this Colts Blue Zone podcast. As I said, follow us on Twitter together at Colts Blue Zone for news and notes throughout the week. Matt is at Statamatty. Chap is at mchappell51. Read all his work on the Colts online at fox59.com and cbs4indy.com. I'm Dave Griffiths at DaveG_sports. I'll see you after getting back from Jacksonville, and who knows if the streak will be broken. We'll find out together. We'll see you next week on the Colts Blue Zone podcast.